we come to the third Sunday of Easter. The reading that we've just heard says that that is the third time that Jesus has appeared to his disciples since the resurrection. There are relatively few resurrection appearances, and so we need to think about each one of these and what is going on with those disciples during this period of time. You recall what an enormously traumatic time this has been for them. After 3 years of building up to some kind of climax in Jerusalem, they go through that experience of Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead, which was breathtaking in itself. And then they go and they are there for that dinner in Bethany when Mary anoints his feet with oil, and he says it's to prepare his body for burial. And immediately after that, they go through this Palm Sunday procession entering into Jerusalem, which is totally bizarre and totally unexpected, and quite a show. And then for a number of days, they are there with him in the temple as he preaches, and then things get dark at the end of the week. One of their own people betrays him. He is put on a mock trial and put to death. And then on the third day, the empty tomb is discovered. The empty tomb is discovered, and the women discover it, and they run back and they tell the other disciples that the tomb is empty and that he has risen. And they don't believe him initially, and then some disciples go and look in, and they say, something's happening here. And then we hear that that evening they were gathered in fear behind a locked door, and Jesus somehow appears to them, and he shares a meal with them. And then he does it again a week later, appears to them, says, "Here I am, touch my hands." And then we're told that he appears many, many other times during this period. So it's curious because in today's lesson, which is the very last chapter of the Gospel of John, the disciples have gone back to Galilee. Funny, if they had this big dramatic event in Jerusalem, our mind is set on the idea that they stay there and until the day of Pentecost, and then the church is born. But that's not what happens in the season of Easter. In this season, they've had these little tastes of Christ's presence with them. They know that something is afoot, but they're not quite sure what it means for them, what they are to do with their lives. So they do what we all do. They go back home, and they resume what they can, and they do what they know how to do. They go back home and they tell their wives or their husbands or their children or their community everything that's happened to them in Jerusalem, all the experiences they've had, and they share them with everyone there, and they puzzle together about what it all means. And then they go back to work. Peter says, "Well, I guess it's time to go fishing again. It's what I know how to do." And there are 6 other disciples there with him, and they say, "Oh, Yeah, well, we'll go fishing with you. And they set out in the boat, and they fish all the night long. In that hard work of putting down the nets, and pulling them up, and down the nets, and pulling them up all night long. And they catch not anything. And then they see on the beach a figure who calls out to them and says, "Yo, haven't caught any fish, have you?" And they say, "No, we haven't caught any fish." He said, "Well, you got to put it on the other side of the boat." So they put it down on the other side of the boat, and they have this huge catch of fish, and they immediately know something's happening. Something is afoot here, and it's John, the beloved disciple, who looks and sees most clearly and says, "Hey, that's Jesus." And Peter immediately jumps into the water and swims ashore, and the rest of them row ashore and bring this big catch of fish ashore. And there he is. And he set up a little charcoal fire. Part of the hint about this story is the charcoal fire. Because the last charcoal fire that you've heard about in the gospel is the one that the soldiers are warming themselves by as the trial of Jesus is going on, where Peter is standing there warming himself with them and denies Jesus 3 times. 3 times. That gives you a foretaste of the rest of the story. And there he is, and he has cooked them some fish and some bread and shares it with them. And doesn't appear to be engaging them in any other way. It says they didn't talk to him or ask him any questions or anything like that. They just shared a meal with him. And then he speaks again, and he says to Peter, "Peter, do you love me?" And then we have this 3-time exchange with him about how much Peter professes to love him, and Jesus says, "Feed my sheep." So the 3-time denial by Peter at the moment of trial is here reversed with the 3-time affirmation by Peter and Jesus' commissioning of him, which concludes in our reading with saying to Peter, after he tells him to tend the flock, he says, "Follow me." And then it's the end of the story. And then we're told once more before the gospel ends, in a couple of verses, that Jesus appeared many other times to the disciples. What's going on here throughout the season of Easter is that these disciples are trying to come to terms with the magnitude of what has happened to them. That it's not an easy thing to say, "Oh yes, he's risen from the dead." Well, nobody had ever risen from the dead. What's that supposed to mean? And it's not an easy thing to say, "Oh, well, that means I'm supposed to," because who knows what it means? It's up to them to live together in community, to struggle together in community, to figure out what this means to them. What does it mean that God has done this new thing? What does it mean about Christ and God? And what does it mean about me and what I'm supposed to be doing? After all, I'm just a little fisherman on a little backwater country in the 1st century. What did it mean to me? I want to suggest to you this morning that that is very often the way we come to terms with the resurrection. The other story we heard this morning is the story about Paul, Saul, on his way to Damascus, who has been persecuting Christians, and suddenly, bango, he is knocked to the ground. It may be that he fell off a horse, or it may be that he fell off a chariot, or maybe he just fell to the ground, who knows. But there was this big noise, and he crashed to the ground, and Jesus says, "Hey, stop stop persecuting me. And Paul, over the course of 3 days, takes him 3 days to come to terms with what this means, is converted and baptized. The Christian message is not self-evident. The resurrection is not self-evident. It is a matter of continually processing what happens with others in the life of a community. Even Paul, who was struck down off the horse by the voice of Jesus, doesn't understand what it all means until he is in community with Ananias and with the community of Christians who are in Damascus waiting for him. It's a process in which we all come to terms over time with what the resurrection means. And that's really what this season is all about. We will, on Pentecost, of course, all be struck by the Holy Spirit, and we will be filled with the joy of that, and we will be empowered to go to the ends of the earth to spread the good news. But right now, we're still trying to figure it out. Right now, each one of us is trying to figure out for ourselves what it means to be a disciple, what it means to know what we know. What does it mean when Jesus says, go? What does he mean when he says, come? It is this season of spiritual growth that Easter represents. It is not, the resurrection of Christ from the dead is not self-evident. It is something we live into, and we proclaim in our own lives, and we see proclaimed in other people's lives, so that we grow into the fullness of the resurrection and become the resurrection itself. Amen.